Hello everyone, and welcome to the Astro Consciousness channel. I'm Millie, and I am here to give you your forecast for the week of September 8th through the 14th. In this channel, we talk about the astrological energy of the week ahead and how you can integrate it into your personal and spiritual growth. So we start the week off very much, very much still under the influence of the full moon eclipse in Pisces that took place on Sunday, September 7th. For those of you who purchased the eclipse guide, I talk about that lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse coming up in Virgo, and a few more lunar events taking place on October 2025. So I invite you to go ahead, grab that eclipse guide. You get a really great overview and you get a little insight as to what all of this means for 2026. Head to the link below or astroconsciousness.com, and you'll be able to find it there. So, as we begin the week, the moon is going to be full, and the moon is going to be in full phase the entire week. So, what does it mean when we have an entire week where the moon is in a full phase and under an eclipse season? Everything is heightened. Our emotions, our thoughts, our expressions, our actions, everything is heightened times 10. So, this is also a week of a lot of manifestation. So, we want to be very mindful of how we move forward with things. If we had a little bit of something with someone last week where there was an argument or there was a disagreement, or there was last week with someone else in particular and it wasn't great, I really invite you to take this week off, to cool off, to not try to come back and try to make amends. I mean, look, you can do whatever you want, right? But this week, it's different. And so let me start diving into why, okay? So we begin the week Monday, September 8th. We begin the first half of the day with the moon still in the sign of Pisces. It's full. So, how we might feel at the beginning of the day, at least the first half, maybe into noonish, also depending on your time zone, is a little bit of an eclipse hangover. We might feel a little loopy. We might feel like a little out there, very difficult to ground. So, whatever it is that you need to do in the morning, it's a Monday, right? So, you start your work week. Some of you have kids to take to school, you have calls to jump on, all the things, right? Whatever you need to do. There's a lot of free stuff on YouTube, breath work, stretches, right? Yoga, whatever it is that you need to do to ground, to come back into your body. I strongly suggest it. Okay, the second half of Monday, the moon enters the sign of Aries. This is where things begin to get spicy and right away at the beginning of the week, okay? The first thing that the moon, when it enters Aries, does is create a sextile to Uranus retrograde in Gemini. Remember, the moon is full. So it's like a full moon in eclipse season in the sign of Aries. This can lend itself, on the one hand, this can lend itself to um, great conversations if they're not personal or emotional. Give yourself a break on that. But if it has to do with projects, if it has to do with you waiting for like a response from someone, let's say that you've been going on job interviews, this can be a week where you actually get a notification where they tell you you got the job or you go to the next level. So on the one hand, that moon in Aries, I think is going to give us a little bit of a boost. It's very different. It's a fire energy. We might begin to feel energized the second half of Monday, right? So the sextile to Uranus and Gemini can bring news, can bring certain conversations that imply breakthroughs, can actually make you feel liberated in some way, shape, or form, depending on what has been unfolding for you over the first week of September. And so you might begin the week feeling, oh, wow, I feel so much lighter. I feel free. On the other hand, if you're still working things through with someone, if you're still working things within yourself, this in a lower expression, in an unintegrated expression, which is why I suggest you really take care of yourself Monday morning to come back to your body and ground as much as possible. This can feel very anxious. This can feel like a thousand, thoughts a minute, right? This can feel very impulsive, very erratic, very short fused and short tempered. All right. So you have the potentials on both the higher expression and the lower expression. Take it easy. Take it easy. And here's what helps. Don't forget the power of intention. Don't forget that you are the one that gets to decide the outcome of your life. Don't forget that you are the oracle. So if it helps, set the intention Sunday night. I set the intention, yes, to surrender to the wisdom of what this eclipse season is trying to teach me, and also set the intention to be grounded throughout my days. I set the intention for my conversations to be as easeful and as clear as possible. When you set the intention, you are speaking to the universe and saying, this is what I want to happen. And you are reminding yourself and the universe, like, oh, yeah, I am that powerful. If you need to set that intention Sunday night, Monday morning, I strongly, strongly suggest it. Okay, Tuesday, September 9th, the moon is still in the sign of Aries. Okay, still full. Remember, everything is heightened times 10. And that moon in Aries is going to conjunct Chiron in Aries. This is why I'm saying if you had a little bit of a falling out with someone in your personal life, I strongly, strongly suggest taking a breather, taking some time, taking the week, because this particular moon in Aries conjunction to Chiron in Aries, the moon is how we feel. We're feeling all the things right now. Eclipse season is bringing up all the things right now. In Aries, if we have unprocessed anger, that's what's going to probably come up or want to come up. The conjunction to Chiron is a little bit of an ouch, is this is what happens when I choose myself. This is what happens when I try to talk to someone. This is what happens when I don't feel seen. This is what happens when I don't feel heard. And so remember, Chiron is the wounded healer. In Aries, it's the wound that comes when we don't choose ourselves. And if we are projecting onto another, it can feel like you don't see me. You are not seeing me, and that causing a little bit of rage, a little bit of anger. Or what this can do is that it can also trigger and activate any resentment that may have been building up over the last couple of weeks. Okay. Now, what this can also do is create a breakthrough within yourself. And the breakthrough in with the moon and Chiron in Aries is I have to see myself. I have to choose myself, right? I don't know if I've talked about this before. I probably have, but it serves well right now. There's a creator on YouTube. His name is Kyle Cease. And I cannot remember where I saw this, if it was in one of his videos or what it was, but he talks about how one of our greatest mistakes is trying so hard to be seen by people that don't even see themselves clearly. And I remember hearing that and I thought, my mind was blown. A moon Chiron conjunction in the sign of Aries, when Chiron in Aries represents the wound that comes with choosing myself, is exactly that. And during eclipse season, remember, eclipse seasons are moments of breakthroughs and transformations. This is what happens when I do choose myself, when I do see myself first, and having this feeling, and that can be a rather emotional feeling, but because it's also in the sign of Aries, it can represent a new beginning, a new chapter within yourself. That's why it's kind of like a spark type of moment, okay? Wednesday, September 10th, we have the Sun in Virgo create a conjunction, come together to the South Node in Virgo. Okay, this is a big deal because they are coming together at 18 degrees Virgo. The South Node was at 18 degrees Virgo at the time of the eclipse on Sunday, September 7th. So this is still, the story of the eclipse is still unfolding. The sun has just finally caught up, right? Okay. This is why I feel like this is a week of manifestations because the sun illuminates, the sun represents a lot of this 3D reality. It represents our identities, it represents how we show up in the world, our vitality, our light in the world. And then the South Node is saying, what are you, right, as who you are in this life right now? What are you leaving behind? What relationship are you leaving behind? What, connection are you leaving behind? What work are you leaving behind? What mindset are you leaving behind? What belief system are you leaving behind? This may have already happened for some people, first week of September, but this week is going to be, a little bit more supercharged because the sun in the South Node, it's almost like whatever happens this week, it's quite fated. It's quite karmic. And so, even though it is a Sun South Node conjunction, and there can be something that needs to be removed, every single eclipse season teaches us that whenever something is removed, it's only because something better is going to replace it. So, the replacement may not come right away, but what we're going to feel within ourselves, within our bodies, is kind of a sense of relief. We're going to feel like, wow, I have this spaciousness. I have this time. I have this freedom. I don't have to censor myself so much. I don't feel so critiqued, right? Lowers expression of Virgo. The lower expression of Virgo is nitpicking, is criticizing, it's judging, it's controlling, right? And so there is something about those elements that the sun meeting the south node is saying, wow, I no longer have that, whether it's an interaction with someone or even within yourself. Because within yourself, this can mean done. I am no longer speaking to myself negatively. I am no longer putting myself down. I'm no longer having these self-deprecating thoughts. I am done with that, right? And really making that decision and making the decision to become very mindful of your thoughts, of your internal narrative from this point forward. So, I mean, if I were to pick a day, this is an amazing week. But if I were to pick a day that is the most important, I would say is this one. And by the way, this energy is active all week long. It just so happens to perfect smack middle in the week of Wednesday. Okay, Thursday, September 11th, the moon is in the sign of Taurus, and it's creating a trine to the Sun, Mercury in Virgo. Sun, Mercury, South Node in Virgo. So the moon will be there in the sign of Taurus for a few hours, right? Until it switches signs. Here's what I will say. Thursday is a really great day to get things done in the mundane, right? So, because the moon in Taurus has to do with money, because Virgo energy has to do with organization, it's a really great day to get in touch with an accountant, to clean out things in your home, to organize your home or your desk. It's a really great day to just throw out anything that you no longer need or you no longer feel adds value, Taurus, to your life. Okay. It's one of those days, there's earth energy. It can feel a little bit more grounded, a little bit more direct. We can feel a little bit more embodied. So just be very mindful of that if you want to take advantage of that day. Friday, September 12th, we have the moon in Taurus create a square to Venus in Leo. Reason, what, number 3 or 4 at this time, at this point, for taking your time if you need to have an important conversation with someone you care about. Moon in Taurus. This is what I value. This is what I'm worth. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is what feels right to me, right? The square to Venus and Leo. But this is how I want to be loved, and this is how I want to be cherished, and this is how I want to be acknowledged, and this is how I want to be celebrated. A square is an aspect of tension. It does catalyze change. But here we have 2 fixed signs in the middle of an eclipse season while the moon is still full. Emotions are way too heightened to not fall into the expression of sinking in our heels and wanting things our way. Okay. Can there be a breakthrough? Sure, of course. There can be a breakthrough, but there's a lot of emotion in the air. There's a lot of emotion in the air. Consider that Pisces energy still moving through the entire week. Um, those two signs, Venus and, excuse me, Taurus and Leo, remember, they're fixed signs. They want what they want when they want it, period. And something like the moon and Venus, it's this is what I need, but this is what I desire. We're not seeing eye to eye, so just be mindful of that. Okay, the weekend of September 13th and September 14th, we have a Sun-Mercury conjunction in the sign of Virgo that are also conjunct the South Node in Virgo. So remember, the Sun came into a conjunction to the South Node on Wednesday. Over the weekend, Mercury is meeting them. So what does that mean? There's just greater clarity. I made the right decision. I made the right decision in letting that go. I made the right decision in cutting that off. I'm actually, and if it wasn't your decision, I'm actually really glad that that ended because I don't know that I would have been able to let it go myself, right? Have you ever found yourself in situations like that, that in hindsight or when there's enough space, you're able to say, you know what? That was the best thing that could have happened. Because I was so fixated in it that I don't know that I could have let it go myself, right? In Virgo is the ability to discern the spiritual lesson in everything that's happening, as opposed to trying to control an outcome that was not going to work anyway. That's what the South Node represents. And the gift of the South Node is that it promises that whatever is released, whatever is left behind, whatever is not trying to be controlled, is only making room for something much more aligned, much more in tune with who you are at this moment in time. Again, will it come immediately? I think for some people it might. For others, you'll definitely see some kind of a replacement. Maybe it doesn't look exactly the same way, but you'll notice that, let's say that this has to do with like work, for instance. And I don't know, maybe your hours were cut, maybe work ended for you. Between now and the end of the year, something else is going to come along that is going to be and feel so much better. And you're going to say, ah, I get it. And this is so much better. And I'm glad that I have this spaciousness in my life to allow this to come in. Okay. Okay. Here's another thing. This triple conjunction between the Sun, Mercury, and the South Node in Virgo are going to create a sextile to Jupiter in Cancer. Okay. I have to be so Capricorn about this, and I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but we just have to ground things. We have to be a little realistic, okay? And don't get me wrong, I am the most optimistic person, but we also have to take into account this human experience so that we can genuinely integrate all of these astrological events into our human lives. That sextile to Jupiter and Cancer, on the one hand, can be really great. On the one hand, it can bring opportunities, it can bring breakthroughs, it can bring, again, like news or something that you were waiting for. It can actually be quite auspicious. Okay. But personally, with clients, with friends, in my own personal life, what I have seen Jupiter in Cancer do is bring up a lot of stuff around family, inner child, family trauma, um, I see my mother in this person, and this is why we cannot, work together, be together. My inner child has been really loud recently, and I have to say things that I haven't been able to say in, 20 years. We have to take that into account because that sextile, again, between the triple conjunction of Sun, Mercury, South Node, and Virgo, and Jupiter in Cancer can be really great, can bring gifts, can be very auspicious. But it's also all of these other things that need to come up in the becoming of us in a year like 2025 during an eclipse season. Okay? So, this can mean holding multiple truths at once. This can mean, wow, I'm really grateful for the things that I've manifested. I'm really grateful for the things that have transpired. I'm really grateful for now the space that I have created in my life. And I'm also crying because stuff is coming up from my past, from parent, from mom, from dad. And because the South Node is involved, if stuff like that, deeply rooted emotional stuff comes up, it's only because it's showing you what you still need to shed from within in order to make space, spiritual, emotional space for something to also grow from within you to align with your external reality. Okay? As always, may this be of service. So much love to you. Don't forget to grab your eclipse guides at astroconsciousness.com, and I will talk to you next week. Take care.